Do you guys think if I gas this game up enough, the devs will give me a free Von Lycaon? Zenless Zone Zero was developed and published by Hoyoverse, the studio behind Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Set in the urban city of New Eridu, citizens are ravaged by supernatural disasters known as hollows. These are essentially pocketed rift realms dubbed the Ethereal Realm, which house deadly monsters. The player plays as either Bell or Wise, a duo of legendary proxies known as Faithin. Proxies are professionals who know these hollows inside and out. The characters you collect from the gacha are enthusiasts who want to enter the hollows for their own reasons. These people also belong to their own factions like Belobog Industries, the Cunning Hares, and the best one, Victoria Housekeeping. I also want to give another spoiler warning. This section of the video will spoil the story elements leading up to the Belobog introduction mission in Chapter 2, so if your internet level is below 24, I'd recommend skipping to this timestamp. Hopefully that spoiler warning explains why this video took so long to make. The actual storytelling itself is kind of mediocre. It borrows the same technobabble storytelling Genshin has, where it'll name drop random things only to elaborate on them in a future quest. The actual world building is kind of neat, but the general storytelling for the main quests, like the stuff with the strongbox, kind of drags on for no real reason. I can't speak on Star Rail because I've only played like 40 minutes of it, but I like how Bell and Wise are actually with each other for the entire game and aren't just separated like Aether and Lumina are in Genshin. So each character has their own time to shine and doesn't have their own development relegated to a new Archon quest every 4 months. Where the game really shines though is the characters. Each character is so vibrant, energetic, and diverse, so it's always a blast to see the playable characters on screen.
Almost here.
The monster?
The theme song.
What?
The bad guy's theme always plays before the final battle.
The best example of this is during Belobog's introduction scene. The way the characters interact with each other gives you the impression that they're like a family, and they're all different in their own way, with Anton being pure muscles and Grace being weirdly into machines. And I know I criticize the world building, but in terms of the actual world design, it's fantastic. They really went all out on the futuristic and urban environments, with 6th Street looking incredibly vibrant and colorful. And I absolutely love the comic book art style the game adopts during cinematics. It really helps this game stand out in comparison to other Hoyoverse titles. Zenless Zone Zero is an action RPG with some roguelike elements. The main gameplay in the Hollows is split between exploration and combat encounters. Exploration requires you to complete some mini objectives while guiding your agents through the Hollows, and combat will have you play as the agents fighting ethereals. The combat gameplay itself revolves around 3 agent parties. You can swap between all of them in combat. Each agent belongs to its own class, like attack, stun, and defense. Other than that, the overworld is pretty much Persona, so there's no region exploration like in Genshin and Wuthering Waves. I will admit the combat is very simple, at least at the beginning. When you're going through the main tutorial sections, it feels like you can just clean house extremely easily. But when you get to the higher level content like Hollow Zero and Shiyu Defense, you start having to actually focus on each character's strengths and weaknesses, and also learn in-depth defensive mechanics like perfect parries. So at the start it feels easy, but the difficulty is made more apparent later on. Would I like to see a more varied combat system, especially one with a jump button? Absolutely. But there still is fun to be found from this game's combat. I mean, God of War Ragnarok could still be fun without a jump button, and it's not like Genshin has you constantly jumping during a fight unless you're playing with Zhao or Cloud Retainer. I've also been seeing a lot of people on Twitter make combos that revolve around juggling enemies in the air, mostly with Lycaon and Ambi. But part of the fun of sending an enemy in the air is being able to extend the combo while mid-air, which isn't possible here. So while it's cool to keep an enemy suspended in the air for a bit, there isn't much to do apart from sending them back down. I think the biggest problem comes from the lack of enemy response to your hits. With the exception of bosses, regular enemies don't flinch as often to your attacks, and they don't counter yours with theirs as often. God of War Ragnarok does the same thing, but only on the highest difficulty, so their flinch resistance is meant to provide a tougher challenge. Here it kind of has the opposite effect. And the exploration part of the Hollows serves as a nice break from the constant combat if you need it. Sure, there are Hollow investigations that are exclusively just the combat, but the exploration makes for a nice change of pace. From a technical standpoint, the game runs great. Hoyoverse's games have never really been demanding like other games, so you can still run it on a mid-level rig and get by. Plus, there are other quality of life changes that I wish were in other Hoyo games, like the unlimited FPS. My only problem is that I can't set the default resolution to 1366 by 768, which is the resolution of my monitor. I can only choose between windowed or full screen, 1920 by 1080 and 1600 by 900. As for the monetization, it is a gacha game, so depending on how you look at it, points could be docked off for that. I am aware that the gacha is kind of the appeal for a lot of people, some of my friends included, but other people don't like it, so bear that in mind. But I do understand the criticisms if you, like me, got a second fucking Koledas before Lycaon, god damn it. Or if you got the signature weapon of a character you don't have. This is a much different take on what's to be expected from a traditional Hoyoverse game, but it's one I'm definitely a fan of. The game carries with it a much more vibrant art style than its predecessors, and while the combat does leave more to be desired, it can still be incredibly fun if you challenge yourself, so I still recommend giving the game a try. Zenless Zone Zero is available on mobile via Apple's App Store and the Google Play Store. It's also available on PlayStation 5 and PC via the Epic Games Store or through HoyoPlay, which is Hoyoverse's own launcher.